Today, let's have a conversation about the importance of making sure you have got well-written contracts and well-written documentation. So let me just take you over a story of a web build that we did a few years ago. And what happened was we designed the website and it went really, really well. And the relevant teams reviewed it, and the managing director of the business signed off the designs so that we could then code those designs. So we then went through and we coded them as per the design. We went through all of the QA process, etc. And they signed everything off. They were really happy with it. So we were pretty much ready to go live. But then what happened was the owner of the company, unbeknownst to us, decided to take a look at what their team had produced with us and essentially vetoed everything. So they said, well, no, I want us to go in a completely different direction. So normally this would be a nightmare for most agencies, but thankfully we'd already set up all of the relevant documentation in place to protect us in such an event. We had a full history of all of the sign-off of that every person had made, and we'd ensured that the contract had been signed where the person that signed off on each step of the process had signed a document that said they were the person that had the ability to sign off. They were authorized by the business to sign off the designs and to design off the final website product. Therefore, this was classed as a change control, and believe it or not, the business were perfectly happy. They completely understood. They recognized the literature that they've written, that they've read and that they'd signed. They recognized that they'd come in at the 11th hour and were asking for significant changes. And we were able to quote for a design evolution where we evolved that design and then put those evolutions, as it were, into the website that we built. And we were able to quote for that and invoice for all of that. Now that is an ideal scenario, and I was at a WordPress meetup today where someone said it almost sounds like a unicorn, because most of us as designers and developers would kind of panic at that point when somebody comes at us at the 11th hour, and it's this whole kind of fight and this battle of, well, what do I do? Do I please the client and just do 2 more extra weeks of work for completely free just to keep them happy, or do I argue my point here? Now, if you don't have the contracts in place, it really makes arguing your point a lot more difficult. This is the point where the conversation could really start to fall apart. So having some form of contract in place where you are saying to the client, whoever signs this is the authorized person to sign off each step of the project, making sure that in that contract you've said what you're going to deliver, how you're going to deliver it, and what the terms are of the engagement with the client. As long as you've got all of that documentation down and that client has signed it, then no matter what you produce and no matter what they throw at you at the end, you have some form of protection. The conversation is still difficult, there still may be arguments, but if you've got some paperwork that has been signed by both parties that you can fall back on, that is going to save you a whole load of pain and potentially enable you to save a relationship from going sour and potentially sell some form of change control, etc. Now, we did a podcast a few months ago with a lady who specializes in contracts, so we will pop a link to that podcast below. If you've got any stories, be they good or bad, feel free to share them in the comments below. If you'd rather not share them in YouTube comments, because they're pretty public, we do have a private Facebook group that you can head on over. That's on wpinnovator.com/group. And if you want to listen to the podcast, head on over to wpinnovator.com/podcast. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow.